I had no expectations for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, during that time when the game came out in 97, I was born, so it was impossible for me to play the game. Hopefully I address everything in this video and I don't leave anything out. Hopefully. Well, if I do, it is what it is. So here's my experience, impressions and review of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Enjoy. Well, that isn't entirely true. Square Enix did release the game for the PS4 with updated visuals, and I've played that one, and to be honest, it wasn't my favourite Final Fantasy game when I played it. I used God mode on ×4 game speed because regular speed was slow as hell, and I was trying to beat the game quickly. So if someone else said I've played the game wrong, well, I did the exact same thing to Final Fantasy IX, and that became one of my favourites, alongside 10 and 12. Never played 6 or what came before it, or the spin-offs. 8 did get remastered, so I'll get to that eventually. And 15 was a stupendously incomplete game. I stayed away from the demo because I didn't want to ruin my experience of the game. I didn't look at the trailers, only for so many early stages of the remake. After that, I was blind. So now I'll be talking spoilers for the game, so be warned. I'll start how the original game disc 1 ended, and from the top of my head, I think it was when Cloud and the gang obtained the black materia and Kitase sacrificed himself in the place that collapsed on itself due to the black materia. And in the remake, the game ends when Cloud and others leave Midgar to see what journey lies ahead. So if you're wondering if the remake ends with how disc 1 ends, it doesn't, and in my opinion it doesn't need to, because out of all the locations from Final Fantasy VII the original, Midgar is the most important out of them all, so it's only fair that this game is centered around it. I thought it was going to be open world, but it's not. It's mostly linear. A lot of people are complaining that the remake is incomplete, when they themselves haven't even played an incomplete Final Fantasy game. Looking at you 15. Now I can't compare the original to the remake because I have no nostalgia or expectation or knowledge of the lore behind the game. I was hyped about it obviously, so this is my new journey of the game. When I first played the remake, I was shocked on how beautiful this game looked. Like damn, the lighting reflection off the wet surface or Cloud Buster Sword. I was like, wow, that's so cool. The slums look good during the day and night and looks lively whenever you walk around. I was always looking at the top side of Midgar. There's a reason why this game is 100 GB to install. So many assets are used to make this game feel like you could be in it, whether you want to or not, like Red Dead Redemption 2 with its amazing detail. The character models look excellent, they all look like their original counterparts, and thank God we don't have those little blocky miniatures that you see in the original when you're exploring and not in battle, because back then you had 2 different character models for every party member. So yeah, Cloud, Tifa, Barret and Aerith look excellent, as well as all the rest of the characters and the new ones that get introduced to this remake. And also, is it me or does the camera tend to focus on something else rather than the face? I'm mostly talking about when they show female characters. I mean, I was constantly looking at Tifa and Aerith assets, and their beautiful face, don't get me wrong, but mostly their luggage. The remake also have CG cutscene that look spectacular. They are only used a handful of times, like spoilers. We see the destruction of Sector 7 and learn more about the ancients. Visually just beautiful to look at, and when it transitions to the gameplay, it's just smooth as sometimes you don't even realize it happened, and that's how good the cutscene is. The details are immaculate and engaging to a point that feels like you're watching a movie or like you're watching Advent Children, but slightly better. Also, when you change your weapon, you can see in the cutscenes and whatever color material you have. It's funny because it looks like they're wearing jewelry even though they're not. And cats are everywhere in this game. They honestly have the best animation I've seen, so that's good if you're a cat person like me. When you progress further to the story, like trying to blow up the reactor, when you're on the scaffolding beneath the plate, in the background you're surrounded by a low texture that kinda looks like a photo to show the rest of the slums. I don't know if it was intentional or they just didn't care. For me, I don't care anyways. It kinda reminded me of PlayStation 1 graphics and compared that to the PlayStation 4 one. And the visuals when you see Sector 7 again, only in ruins, my eyes were glued to the screen. Some texture did fail to load and looked kinda rough when it happened a couple of times, but it can get patched for updates later on. Nothing game breaking or immersion breaking though. Another thing people were skeptical about was the combat system of the remake. Now I'm gonna say something that most people won't like, and that is that turn-based playstyle is a dead art form. In this day and age where everything is so quick, why on earth would someone want to play something that is slow? And that's the issue I had when I'm trying to play old school RPGs. I didn't know what to do, and every time mobs just keep spawning out of nowhere. Only Final Fantasy X is when I was able to enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, I like turn based, but I enjoy action RPG a lot more than I did before. Plus you see less game being publicized over it. Only Persona 5 broke that chain. If you didn't like the combat in that game, then you probably like the art style or the music. But back to Final Fantasy Remake. The combat at face value looks like Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy 15. You can use turn-based combat-ish. The only thing you can do is use the command menu and choose what you want to do since time slows down, and in classic difficulty, normal attacks are automatic, so you only need to worry about what ability you want to use. And I can say that the combat in this game destroys all the others out of the park that Square Enix made. My favourite game that had the best combat was Kingdom Hearts 2 with its fast paced and destructive power abilities. At the start you play as Cloud Strife, an ex-soldier of Shinra. His playstyle is balanced, excelling at close range and mid range. Cloud can even change his fight style, as his standard attack is quick with some damage and being very evasive, while his strong style has a slow wind up. Then whoever's caught in it will be torn to shreds with powerful attacks, but you can't evade as much. You can mix it up by using abilities to prolong your combos without letting your opponents breathe. Most of Cloud abilities are slow and powerful, with the exception of Stinger and 3 Stinger hit combo, and that attack is good when he's surrounded by Shinra soldiers. You can switch characters to play as, so it won't just be Cloudy controlling. The others are Barret Wallace. He's good for a long range attack using his unique weapon that's attached to his arm, a minigun. And the funny thing about this game is that everyone you play as feels unique. Barret can unleash 3 powerful attacks that will then need time to charge up to use again, and using his normal attacks for shooting. When the gun overheats, press triangle to also charge a super attack quicker and deal some damage along the way. My favourite ability of Barret is using his hailstorm of bullets that uses 2 ability points. It's very high risk high reward kind of attack. Tifa Lockhart has the best combat mechanic in the game. Using her I felt like a god, and if she's in my party I normally play as her rather than the rest. She doesn't use a sword or a gun or a staff, instead she uses a fist to do the talking, and my goodness do they talk. You can charge her ability twice using an uppercut to an Omni Strike to rise and fall. Not only that, she has another ability when she hops for a few seconds and just unload the fury of attack. But my favourite is using Chi Trap. It's an orb that deals damage for a certain time, and during that time you can use other abilities of Tifa to maximize the damage. A true fist of fury. I love using her. And lastly, Aerith Gainsborough. Her combat excels at long ranges in Magic. She has a good offense but terrible defense. She isn't good at close range, so it's best to keep it distant and swing your staff like a madwoman. But I will say, just her using her staff, she looks elegant. Her abilities are mostly, from what I remember, because I barely used them, are things like you can cast magic twice in a circle, summon a familiar, and my favourite was the Real Judgment, but that attack doesn't track enemies, so it's best to use that when they're staggered. Also, my other favourite attack that I forgot to mention was that she can summon lightning around her, and that attack is deadly when he's surrounded by multiple enemies. Unfortunately, Red 13 isn't playable, but can join the party as a guest character. I don't know why Square did this, since there shouldn't be a problem. I mean, Kingdom Hearts 2, Sora becomes an animal and you can attack and everything, but the remake Red is just a guest. I like the quirkiness of his character, especially when he interacts with Barret, as Barret calls him a lapdog, even though he looks more like a tiger, and then their relationship becomes weird. Not in the bad way, because Barret doesn't know how to express himself properly, and him trying to express himself to Red 13 just feels awkward. There is one funny scene where 13 calls himself a lab rat, even though he constantly tells Barret and the others that he isn't. He just basically gave up and played along.
So then, what is this ragtag group of misfits I see before me? Avalanche!
Local florist!
Lab rat dog.
Also, he has one of the best smiles in the game.
On second thought, maybe frowning suits you better. Hey, don't pout!
You do see Kate Sith in the cutscenes, but you don't see the other cast like Yuffie, Sid or Vincent. Maybe they show up in part 2? Maybe. And everyone in this party feels like a team, meaning that you'll use every single one of them because they all have their purpose. If there's an enemy that's flying, you can switch to Barret, or if someone that's weak to magic, you can switch to Aerith, or fighting up close and personal, use Cloud and Tifa to do the job perfectly. I didn't feel like I had one party at the bench, even though in the story you control Tifa, Barret and Aerith rather than Cloud, and I like that aspect of the remake. Like, I'm sure if you played any Final Fantasy, you have benched some other characters you barely play as. Like for me in Final Fantasy X, it was Kimimari. You only allowed 3 party members up front in battle, which is good, but eventually we will get introduced to more characters. Then hopefully it changes to 4 party members on the battlefield. Now when I played this game, it was very different from the rest of the Final Fantasy I've played. This game doesn't have a job system like warrior class or mage class and so on. Instead, this game uses materia, an orb that has an element or some other source inside of it, and earning more AP you unlock powerful versions of them like fire and fire raga. So it uses science instead of hocus pocus magic. You have 2 ability bar gauges to use such things like magic and abilities. Some uses 2, making it high risk, and using healing magic, it takes longer than just popping a potion in you, but if you get attacked when Cloud is in animation to do something, it gets cancelled and you lose that ability bar, making it infuriating. You can find and buy weapons to use, and some of them have more material slots to use, more magic or perks, and you can upgrade your weapon in this planet upgrade thing that reminds me of Red 13 Homeworld when you see the planet and the meteor, and the upgrades are more like unlocking more health points, magic points, damage or elemental attack boost, unlocking more material slots and more. Tifa weapons or glove prioritize speed over strength, and some other weapons of the party prioritize strength over magic and magic over strength, stuff like that. Some attributes are better than others, and you can change your accessories that help you deal more damage or help you being immune to other ailments. If you max out your proficiency to a certain weapon, you can use that ability without equipping that weapon. You have summon material that help you in a battle when summoned, of course. It can be your companion for a short time. You can't play as a summon, which is expected, but they can turn the tide of the battle with their own elements. Like example, Abzu is weak to fire, so summon Ifrit, and the design of the summon is pretty lit. You have Ifrit, Shiva, Bahamut, Leviathan and Fat Chocobo with Mughals, and the Fat Chocobo is adorable. There are more with the DLC summons that are Cactua and Carbuncle, and speaking of summon, you can earn them by collecting data for the researcher, like assess X amount of enemies or use their weakness element against them, stuff like that. Only Leviathan gave me trouble, the rest were easy. However, I haven't fought Bahamut yet. You can recover your health and magic by sleeping in your apartment in a nice cozy bed at the beginning of the game, or rest on the bench with a vending machine to stock up on items. The boss fights are excellent. Some of them are difficult and some are annoying. The first boss fight you face, I forgot to use my abilities, I made it hard on myself. The camera can get in the way sometimes if you're near a wall, or sometimes when you're doing exploration. The lock on can get a bit iffy, as I don't know if I locked onto the target. Like I'm focused on one specific enemy, and when I move my camera, my lock on changes, and then I just start attacking everything that's on screen. You might be thinking that isn't bad, but I want to deal with the threat first and then deal with the fodders later. And air combat is a joke. It really isn't that great. Like if you don't have Barret or Aerith or any long range magic, then the fight becomes tedious and longer than it should be. You can't constantly rely on magic because the MP will eventually drain to nothing. As I said, you have 2 ability bars to use, and if the battle is long, chances are you're probably going to heal yourself, so you already used one, and then you're probably going to use the other ability for something else rather than using it for combat. So yeah, air combat is trash. Hopefully it gets fixed in part 2 of the remake, or even now with the patch, but mostly part 2. On the other hand, you can stagger bosses or regular enemies that will give you a window of opportunity to beat the ever living crap out of them. One cool thing about the airbuster is that you can pick your own poison. What I mean is that you can choose to limit its CPU, which is its brain, rocket capacity, which is its destruction, and speed to evade your attacks. I wonder what the fight is like if you don't handicap yourself and fight it with full power. Rush boss fight was fun and exciting, a little bit of challenge and a little bit of thrill, but I like its character, a little bit crazy and off the hinges, and that's what makes him likable to me. It's a shame that when he gets introduced, that's the last you get to see of him. Well, the second time, but you know what I mean. There are more, but I'm just gonna say the same thing over and over. The only fight I didn't like was fighting Rude by himself. He's constantly on the offensive and in your face, giving you no time to think. Although seeing Cloud being a victim of a giant swing is funny. Reno and Rude together, which is double the headache, because it's 2 on 3. It seems like you have the advantage, but you don't if this is your first playthrough, as mostly probably going to manage your items and heal your party members a lot. And Rufus, as he just parries your attack constantly. Luckily I had magic attack, and his fight has 2 stages, as you have to fight him alongside a stupid dog. The final fight with Sephiroth didn't disappoint, for me at least. Now for the story, I like it and I don't like it at the moment. I'll elaborate more on the parts that I don't like, and the parts that I do like will become self-evident. Since this is part 1 of the massive story of Final Fantasy VII, the story is kinda different from the original, hence the remake. Hell, for all I know, they could add elements from Advent Children or Crisis Core. This game is the first time it's been voice acted, as the original was just all text, and it helps a lot to boost the story and emotions more than in the original. When Avalanche and Cloud destroy the first macro reactor, you get to see the destruction that you caused, You think you're doing a good job of saving the planet, but it's at the cost of ruining people's lives, and the NPC have a lot more personality than any game I've played. You get to hear the perspective on current events, you can do side quests like killing monsters, finding whatever they want you to find, and meeting new side characters. Doing stuff like that will earn connection within people in the slums, like hearing praises of your hard work and accomplishment. I like that as they encourage me to do more side quests. Not only that, you have side activities like darts, breaking boxes to earn the high score, and training at the gym in Wall Market, as well as fighting the Coliseum. You do see infamous Final Fantasy beasts like Tonberries and Marlboro in the side quest. I wasn't sure how Square was going to implement Hell House into the game, as that was one of the strangest beasts I've seen in Final Fantasy, but lo and behold, he is the final boss in the story of the Coliseum to earn money for Aerith's beautiful dress, and to enter Don Corneo's mansion. The whole Wall Street section was one of the best to play through. The rhythm dancing section in Honeybee, where Cloud has to keep up with Andrea, is pretty much him keeping Cloud in check, while Cloud just wiggles his arm around. Then after that, Cloud gets a makeover and dresses in drag to get into Corneo's mansion, where hopefully he gets chosen to be his bride-to-be. There are 3 dresses for all of them, Aerith, Tifa and Cloud, which I will get. Seeing Tifa in her outfit, my god, it's like seeing an angel. Same goes for Aerith, they're both beautiful. And Don Corneo is still a sex freak, and more creepy in a remake, making him more energetic and lively. I just don't want to think about what happened to the other unfortunate women that were victims to Corneo's dark fantasies. And who could forget the Avalanche trio, Wedge, Biggs and Jesse. I never expected to like them since I didn't care in the original. I mean, they died early in the game, so why should I care? They're essentially plot devices for Barret motivation and his character developments to expose Shinra's dirty deeds. Well, I can say that now that these guys have better character developments than the original. You spend a lot more time with them if you want, learn of their hobbies, like Wedge is super addicted to cats and Jesse is super addicted to Cloud's pants. The first couple of chapters you stuck with these guys and see Cloud and Emotional Soldier slowly warming up to them. If you played the original, then you know what happened to them. They all die at the pillar trying to stop Sector 7 plate from crashing down. I knew this was gonna happen, but I didn't want it to happen as I was attached to them. I love the camaraderie between Jesse, Biggs and Wedge, just having fun in dark time while trying to ruin Shinra's plan. However, this is spoilers, so beware. Jesse and Biggs are the only ones to die at the pillar, as Wedge survives thanks to his cats. Their deaths were handled with care. I was hoping since this was a remake that they will all survive, but no. In the original when it happened, it was all text, so you can basically imagine whatever you want, how they sounded like or how these guys felt, but now it's all voice acted, accompanied with updated soundtracks, or is it remixed? I'm not sure. But you hear the regret and guilt of Jesse's final words and reassurance from Biggs' final words, and all that fueled me to take down the Turks. All in all, it's sad time. And speaking of the Turks, fuck these guys. I hated Reno and Rude for what they did to them, along with the leader, that stupid mold-headed dude. When you fight them at the top of the pillar, Reno and Rude, it was intense with a lot of pressure because it was 2 on 3 and it depended on how well you did or not. But it felt like it was all for nothing, as this is why I don't like the story at the moment. Because the remake introduces these characters that look like Dementors from Harry Potter, but they're called Whispers. And at the start you get to see him for the first time and during key moments of the story later on. I wish there weren't just plot devices trying to stop Cloud and the gang from changing destiny. And that's the only part of the remake I didn't enjoy. As for me, it felt lazy and uninspired, like it just came out of thin air. Like the button is there for Cloud or Barret to press to stop the plane from falling into Sector 7, but behold, these ghouls just stop them in their tracks. I mean, the Turk can easily just pin them down while someone unleashes the plate, but no. And the thing about Destiny is that if I know the team is gonna fail trying to stop the plane from falling or other events occurring, that is Destiny. And if it changes, that is also Destiny because it was destined to happen. And you can't really change it because it's basically written to do what it needs to be done or is predetermined. So whenever they show up, the story suffers a lot. And I hope in part 2 these ghouls will get fleshed out. Also in part 2 and onwards, I hope that Reno and Rude alongside with the molehead guy die for my satisfaction for what they did to the Avalanche trio. I think they're in Advent Children as the good guys, but I don't care, this is the remake where they can expand with the lore, change it, and like I said, the voice acting helped boost this game for me in order for me to care and hate these guys. What else? Oh yeah, you get to visit the haunted train graveyard. This section was well done. As in the name, it was haunted. It kinda reminded me of the Metro series, if anyone remembers that. But Cloud and the rest have to get past the ghost children. At first I didn't like it because those stupid plot devices intervened at the end of the graveyard section. But you get to see Aerith as a kid, And also you get to see Cloud and Tifa as a teenager, but that is early on in the game though. The character development in this remake is fantastic, from Cloud being a stoic and emotionless soldier in the beginning to slightly having a smile on his face. The relationship between Cloud and Aerith, I freaking loved every part of it. The dynamic between them compared with the original is so much better, and the development between them. Aerith's dialogue are just too funny and witty. Like when Cloud says something, like the monster targets the weak one, and she replies with, "Oh well, you better watch out then, Cloud." That put a smile to my face, as I wasn't expecting that remark.
No telling where he'll come from.
Monsters instinctively target weaker prey.
You'd better watch out then, Cloud.
She always tries to brighten the mood of every situation, and Aerith is essentially the light that shines on, and when you see her being sad, I felt sad rather than me just be like, okay, moving on. They are a couple, but the part I'm talking about is when Aerith is talking about her first love. I thought that Cloud and Aerith were a thing, but guess not. I knew of Zack from Crisis Core, never played it but I do own the game, and I knew him from Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. That's about it. I wasn't expecting him to show up in the remake since his story is a prequel, and in the original he only shows up as a flashback. So yeah, whoever made this script for Aerith, it's a job well done. Seriously. And that same goes for Tifa and Barrett's development. Tifa is a strong warrior, but she's also kind, so it's conflicting. Avalanche's goal is to save the planet and stop Shinra from overusing the Mako, and her by herself, I don't think she'll be able to make tough decisions, and that's where Barrett comes in. He is, in basic term, a tsundere and very hot-headed, making bold plans, and if it were up to him, the team would have been dead long time ago. And that's why I think Barrett needs Tifa's strength and her calm-headedness. Eventually he starts to care for others, as that wasn't the case before, as he was always objective first, where Jesse and Biggs have their own unique perks and their own abilities, but as Barrett is the leader of Avalanche, he always pushes the team to greater heights, but to what cost? You'll see when playing the game. And I just want to say that Marlene is a sweet little angel. If anything happens to her, I will cry. Okay, I'm not that emotional, but I will be sad. The music for the remake is excellent. Square didn't really have to remix the original soundtrack, but it worked, which is awesome, and you can collect the soundtrack as part of a collectible and use them on a jukebox to jam out to your favourite tunes. I mean, my favourite is a hip hop chocobo theme. What could go wrong there? Who would ever imagine that in a Final Fantasy game, the chocobo theme always changes, and in the remake, they just went all out with it. You do get to hear the normal chocobo theme by using them as fast travel. I said nearly all of the soundtrack I enjoyed thoroughly. It's a shame that when you buy the deluxe edition, you get a mini soundtrack that has 10 music on them. And another thing that is popular is a victory theme of Final Fantasy VII. Since this is an action-packed game, you can't really implement the music at the end of every battle, right? Well, Square did find a way, with Barrett humming the theme, or winning in the Colosseum, and Cloud even swings his giant sword like a toy.
Our reigning champion does it again! Not only does he retain his crown, but now he can add Beast Whisperer to his list of impressive achievements!
Ah! That wasn't too much trouble.
Muggles are in this game, not talking about the summon, but there are Shinra boxes scattered everywhere, and breaking them you get varieties of items like potion or phoenix down, but then you get a Moogle medal that is basically a currency that you can use in Sector 6 in the children's hideout, as one of them is cosplaying as a Moogle, Kupo. You can buy weapons that's only in the Moogle shop, and an AP boost book for all party in the game. Is it AP boost or weapon boost? It doesn't matter. I don't think that Muggles were even in Final Fantasy VII, but they were introduced in Final Fantasy IX, I think. You even have a driving segment in certain chapters of the game. It's kinda like you're on rails, you only have to control the speed, when to brake, moving left or right, and swinging your Buster Sword frantically till you hit something. At first you drive some random Shinra bike, then later when Cloud and the party escape the Shinra building, you drive the iconic bike, the Daytona Hardy, and this bike is huge, whether in game or in real life. And in the second to last chapter, or the last chapter, you fight this giant robot mobility scooter thing. This fight felt weird to play and control. Since it's on rail, Cloud will just clip behind when I try to move left to right and attack its wheel and dodge, and you pretty much have to rinse and repeat the same thing. I've played it on normal, so I'm guessing on hard difficulty is gonna be a drag. So finally, in the last couple of chapters, you enter the Shinra building and try to save Aerith from Hojo and the corporate bad guys. The detail inside the building is insane. I thought I was in a museum, just looking at the walls, ceiling and the decor of the building. It's funny I said it was like a museum, because in order to reach the top floor and confront Shinra, you learn the history of Mako and the benefits of utilizing it through the lens of corporate greed. You get introduced to a subplot that doesn't get resolved, as this random Shinra soldier recognizes Cloud, It's a bit confusing because you basically don't know Cloud's past when he was groomed into being a Shinra soldier. So these random Shinra soldiers that recognizes Cloud means nothing to me. Then finally Cloud's first real encounter with Sephiroth in front of Jenova, not just seeing him as an illusion but as a real person, or so I thought. But it was intense. I mean, how can you fight a person with a 20-foot katana Masamune against Cloud's 8-foot kitchen knife? At that point Cloud wasn't really ready to fight him, and I thought Square wouldn't really just end the game without fighting Sephiroth, would they? But in order to get to him, man, it was brutal. My party was constantly down, making me think a lot harder. I didn't lose a fight as they'll probably take me to the last checkpoint, and fighting Bahamut was, ugh, it was depressing. So make sure you stock up on health potion and a lot of Phoenix down, as using the potion is a lot quicker than healing magic, and I am sure that your ability will probably get cancelled more than once. So the fight with Sephiroth, it is accompanied with one winged angel, and just using Tifa in a fight is just god tier. I was just switching to her and Cloud and attacking Sephiroth, and when Cloud got his attention I just switched to Tifa, then Aerith, and repeat the same cycle, and the fight got dirty. I was just unloading a barrage of attacks. Sephiroth does have a unique attack where he just leaves you with 1 HP, but it isn't that bad. Mind you, I did play on normal again like I said. And with all my hard work, that was the ending of part 1 of Final Fantasy VII Remake. And the ending of the remake had me smiling, as this is another spoilers, so be warned. Again, you see a flashback of Zack rather than just being mentioned, you actually get to see him, and Biggs is alive, I guess, only leaving Jessie, but I think she's probably dead. And even though Wedge was alive, I don't know if he made it out Shinra alive, cause the place was crawling with whispers. The story is different enough from the original, and you see a glimpse of the future of Final Fantasy VII Remake. If you played the original, then you know what some of them are. Will it be the same outcome? Who knows? And where would the journey take them? I don't know. Only time will tell. On the other hand, I can see some people saying that the ending is lackluster, as it's basically just saying see you in part 2, rather than giving a long time fan some closure. You don't even see a glimpse to what to expect in part 2. But it got me thinking something. How are they going to implement open world in part 2? Is it going to be like the original, where the other cities are miniatures, or is it going to be life size? And you need certain vehicles to get over certain terrains to reach the other maps. Are we going to see that? And in part 2, is Midgar gonna even be explorable or just locked? And in order to revisit Midgar, you need to play this game. And I was wondering how they're gonna implement Omega Weapon and Emerald Weapon and Ruby Weapon for all that matter. Yeesh, I don't know. I guess those are my concerns for now in this video, as more will probably pop into my head when I have time to think. And that was my first impression of the game. I loved every part of it, apart from the lazy plot that uses whispers. The game is easily 10 out of 10 for some people, or a high 9, so what are you waiting for? Go out and buy the game. It's easily accessible to newcomers as it caters towards more action and adventure. I was wondering if any long-term fans either love this game or hate it, and I probably prefer the original, just like every other sheep. And I hope that part 2 is sooner rather than later, because if someone was waiting for the remake to come out, only in parts, not everyone has long to live. And there's a thought for you. For me, I don't care. I just enjoyed the experience. Okay, once you finish the game, you have a choice to play on hard difficulty, or any difficulty for that matter, and choosing which chapter you want to play. So I thought I'd rather play the game again on hard difficulty, starting with chapter 1, and at first it wasn't that bad, but when you get to the boss fight, it wasn't that bad again. When you get to the point where the machine heals itself, his freaking health wouldn't go down. I mean, when you stagger it, you have a little opportunity to deal some damage, but then I don't have enough power to do so. Ugh, story of my life. I guess in order for me to get past chapter 1 on hard difficulty is to grind more. Well, anyways, I've been AnimersiveXP. Make sure to comment, subscribe, like and share, and you'll see me in the next video. Bye bye.
Wait a minute. Cloud? Is that you? Oh my god, that makeup! And that dress!
Nailed it, I know, thank you. Moving on.
Wait!